Everybody, here we're back again with this Acer Aspire One netbook. This is the 532H. It has the Intel Atom N450 processor. I recently featured this in a video where I tested out Linux Mint XFCE, and well, that was kind of like a halfway. The performance was kind of like halfway between that of, well, Windows 10 and Windows 7. I mean, yeah, wasn't all that fast. It was a bit on the slow side, but hey, it could have been a lot worse. But I figured, why not? Let's try something even lighter. So, the minimum requirements for Linux Mint XFCE are a minimum of 2 GB of memory, minimum of a 1 GHz dual-core processor, 30 GB of free hard disk space, and HD graphics card and monitor. Well, we know the netbook did not meet the last requirement, but the netbook just barely met those other requirements. But really, to be honest, we're talking about an Atom CPU, so really the Atom CPU is pretty underpowered. So, we're going to be installing Lubuntu on it this time, which Lubuntu, from what I'm reading online, only requires a 700 MHz single core processor, 512 MB of RAM, and 5 GB of disk space. Much lighter. Okay, so I have Lubuntu loaded onto this flash drive. I use Rufus to set that up, and I have a video posted on the basics of Rufus and how to use it. So we're going to plug this into this netbook. Super tight and rarely ever used USB ports. And we're going to start it up and begin installation. You can see the boot menu for Lubuntu is very basic compared to Linux Mint and Zorin. Okay, so here we are in Lubuntu, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install it. Before I begin, I should mention this netbook, in addition to the Atom N450 CPU, it has 2 GB of installed memory, and it has a 64 GB SSD installed. Alright. Let me guess. Must be a Linux thing to, by default, turn off the tap to click on the trackpad. Okay, so here is the installer for Lubuntu. So it's going to run through setup here. And of course, we are in Eastern Time. Of course, it's asking us the important questions, not like, what is your advertising ID? You know, like Windows. So what I'm going to do is we're going to erase everything. Okay, it's just doing a little summary of what it's going to do. And click install now, and it's going to go ahead and begin installation. Okay, so Lubuntu has been installed on this netbook, and I had stopped last night because it was getting super late, so now I'm going to resume it today. Let's go ahead and start this thing up. This will be its first startup. Okay, so we're in now, mostly, and it's still loading up everything. Still loading the desktop background. Okay. So it's saying default monitor settings have been applied. Close that out. So we are connected to the internet. It's been a while since I've actually messed with Lubuntu. The Linux builds I normally mess with are Zorin OS and well, also Linux Mint recently. So there are a couple of updates that wants to install. I'm going to just not worry about that for the time being, because this is actually going to be like a temporary install. So this is like the task manager in Lubuntu. So we can see our memory usage. So, yeah. Memory usage is not all that bad. There's, you can see the total usage and the amount of cached. Right now there's no swap being used. So I think it is pretty safe to say that this is a pretty light OS. It could be good for netbooks like this. And like Linux Mint, it comes with LibreOffice out of the box. See how long it takes for this to load up. Not terrible. And of course, the LibreOffice reminds me a lot of Microsoft Office 2003 as far as the layout goes. So that's the writer. And for example, I think Math is the spreadsheet program. Or maybe not. Calc, that's right. Calc is the spreadsheet program. And these programs load up pretty quick. So if you're wanting to do basic spreadsheet editing and word processing and stuff like that, this thing is to work pretty well. Let's see what else we got here. Impress, I think, is the alternative to PowerPoint. To be honest, this reminds me of the performance of this reminds me of how Windows XP would run on this thing. So we have VLC Media Player included. And of course, I use VLC on Windows, so I'm pretty familiar with VLC. It's nice that they do give you a video player fresh out of the box, and a good one at that. So it looks like they don't have GIMP installed on here out of the box. But there's this Image Magic. I never used this before. So for example, yeah, I've literally never used this before, so this is definitely, of course, an image editor. Apparently it doesn't want to close easily. There. Here's LibreOffice Draw. Oh, so this is like Publisher or the print shop, I think. Yeah, I would say. So screen grab is like snipping tool. They're similar to that. Like for example, well, maybe not that way, but yeah, I've never used this before, so I would get out of this. What is Scanlight? Okay, so this is a piece of software for working with scanners, as I kind of figured. So FetterPad is kind of like, I'd say kind of like Notepad. I think that's the closest thing we could compare it to. So we got a file manager here, and you can see stuff is opening up really quick on this. So definitely safe to say that Ubuntu is a good light OS for a netbook. So we got a clipboard tool. I don't even know if it even came up. So you get a few different things on here. That's the only game they provide, and of course this netbook having a 1024 by 600 screen, a lot of things just don't fit properly. So we got some Bluetooth options in here. Got a partition manager, process viewer. Let's look at that process viewer. Ah, okay. It's also kind of similar to Task Manager in a way. Of course, got the Q terminal there. Startup disk creator. And of course, QPS, which we already have running down here. You can see how Windows Expand and Minimize reminds me of Windows XP or even Windows 9X in a way. Okay, let's check out our internet options. We have, of course, Firefox included. Now, I can imagine that browsing the web on this, even though Ubuntu is nice and lightweight, it's still going to be a crawl on this system. We shall see. And of course, Firefox is Firefox. It doesn't start up particularly fast, even on Windows. I find Chrome to be a whole lot faster. And of course you can see that CPU is getting used up pretty good now. And and it's taking YouTube a little while to load, as I would expect. So we are starting to use a little bit of swap, it looks like. Yeah, because look. Still waiting on YouTube to load. So I'm afraid netbooks, they're just not cut out for internet browsing anymore, even though, well, netbooks, that's kind of what they were sold on originally when they came out. It was an ultra low cost option to get you a basic little computer that you could use to do basic tasks like browsing the web. But of course, the web in 2023 is much more complex and bloated than it was in 2008, in 2009, and 2010. YouTube is still loading up. It's, yeah, sure is taking its sweet time. And I'll mention, this is nothing against Lubuntu. It's not Lubuntu's fault. Lubuntu runs great on this thing. It's just the modern bloated web is just way too much for this little netbook. So you can see we have about a gigabyte of memory used and another 818 megabytes cached. So it's kind of like how modern Windows uses RAM. And of course, when Windows Vista came out, people were flipping out because Vista was supposedly hogging up all the RAM because it manages memory different than XP did. YouTube is finally loaded. I must say, YouTube is very, very bloated these days. Waiting to see if our suggestions are going to come up. Let's just go ahead and search. Yeah, you can see this is just, yeah. Well, for one thing, this video down here, that's, well, apparently people search my channel for Windows XP. Yeah, this video down here is playing, I guarantee, is taking up a lot of resources on this poor little thing. It's like watching paint dry to an extent. Okay, there's the channel page. And of course, this 1024 by 600 screen is just horrible for web browsing these days. And of course, right there is our Linux Mint XFCE video on this netbook. Yeah, let's attempt to watch a video on this thing. You see how slow it's taking just to load up the web page, let alone the video. Horribly slow. And of course, it's going to play an ad first.
TurboTax expert. Do your taxes for you.
Even the ad is buffering. Food Line, our local grocery store. Struggling to even play the ads.
The more help we get, the more we can give.
You know, normally it's like on crappy computers, it's like the ads play well, but the video doesn't. We're almost there. Ah, there's the video. And it's currently playing in...
Hey everybody. So in recent videos I have featured this netbook running Windows 11. If you watch this video, you would probably
360p.
Well, you would have definitely noticed how modern Windows, like Windows 10 and Windows 11, runs so horribly slow on these.
So the integrated controls work. You see, I can adjust the brightness of the screen too. Video is still playing like a slideshow.
Also got a 64GB solid state drive in it. That way we can eliminate the more.
Let's try to full screen it.
So it's going to be solely based on an Atom CPU. And in a recent video, I compared this little netbook here.
To my surprise, it's actually playing. It's still a little, glitchy here and there, but it's actually playing. Let me turn it up for just a sec.
The performance difference was night and day. So, essentially, with these netbooks, when it comes to Microsoft Windows, if you want to run Windows on one of these things, you got to use an over.
So yeah, amazingly, it's playing. Took a while to get there, but it's actually playing.
Issues because of that. Because, well, for one thing, Microsoft no longer offers security patches for the OS, so you're left vulnerable. But also, software vendors...
Really surprised here. But again, it is just 360p, but on this crappy screen, it really doesn't matter. And of course, you look at the logo in the corner, the logo looks a little fuzzy because, well, we're still in a low resolution, but it's actually playing. I'm actually kind of shocked.
So here's a look at Linux, the system here. Okay, so go ahead and...
So if you want a YouTube player that will, I guess, sort of play back videos, I guess if you put Luvuntu on your netbook, it'll do it. It'll just take a little while to get there, but hey, it's actually doing it. I'm actually quite surprised. And I kind of have a feeling if I was to install Chrome on this thing, it would actually probably do a little bit better. Alright, let's get out of this. So just for the heck of it, I figured I would try to install Google Chrome on this thing. So we're going to download the .deb for Debian/Ubuntu. Now while that's going, for example, let's just do a little bit of random browsing. Like for example, I'm sure y'all probably, those who are in the NASCAR probably know that North Wilkesboro Speedway is going to be hosting the All-Star race this year. I'm located about, I'd say about an hour away from North Wilkesboro. For example, let's try looking up the Wikipedia for it. So it's actually pretty safe to say that browsing the web is actually not terrible on this thing. But of course YouTube is going to be slow. Okay, it's almost like we hit a brick wall with this thing. It appears to be froze up, but it's not, because I see the disk activity indicator is doing stuff. So yeah, what it is, you look at this swap here. It's just, yeah, it's in the memory. This thing's struggling big time. So yeah, I think it's because we had Firefox open. We have like 3 tabs open of Firefox, so that's really holding it back. So I'm gonna give it a minute, see if we can get it to start responding again. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to hard reset it. Okay, I ended up having to hard reset the thing, but we got it back up, and now we're gonna go ahead and install Chrome. Okay, we should be good to go. And there's Google Chrome. So we're going to close out of this. Let's try out Chrome on this machine. Yeah, let's see how long it takes for YouTube to load on Chrome versus Firefox. Of course, you can see that CPU is being used pretty hard. It seems like it's a tad faster on Chrome than it was on Firefox. Oh yeah, there's definitely a noticeable difference in performance between Firefox and Chrome on this. Although it's still not super fast by any means, it's a little less terrible. But it does look like it's a little faster than previously. Oh yeah, it's a very noticeable difference. This is actually almost usable. And of course that CPU, you can see it's wide open, but yeah. Let's go back to that video we was at previously. There's that Food Line ad again.
It can be a lot of work. We're always grateful to have the Food Line associates pitch in, because the more help we get,
The ad still buffers a little bit.
fill tables and hearts with hope. Food Line feeds, here for every moment.
State Farm is not there for me.
Here, buddy.
Okay, so we are playing in
Featured in this netbook, running Windows 11.
360p still.
If you watch this videos, you would probably notice, well, you would have definitely noticed how
Let's go full screen again.
modern Windows, like Windows 10 and Windows 11, runs so horribly slow on these Atom netbooks. This here is an Aspire 1532H.
So it's actually playing relatively well.
I have 2 gigabytes of RAM in it. It also got a 64 gigabyte.
So it looks like 360p is the best this will do. Let's try 480.
This drive as a
Oh, there's no 480. There's no 480 there. It's either 360 or 720. Well, we know 720 will not work, so we're not even going to bother with that.
little netbook here, running Windows Vista. It's a respect to
All right, so let's open a new tab.
Windows 11, 22H2.
And let's look up North Wilkesboro Speedway again. Why not? That loaded relatively fast. So it's actually usable. Let's pull up the Wikipedia page. Of course, anything to do with the old netbook is going to be, the CPU is going to be wide open, but dare I say it, it seems like Ubuntu runs on these netbooks similar to how Windows XP would run on one. I mean, basic web browsing works. I mean, it's actually usable. Now, you're still limited to the horrible screen resolution of this, but you could theoretically downsize the size of the web page and it gets a whole lot better. So we have the zoom size of the page set to 80% now. Like, for example, if I go back to YouTube, let's go back to Cube Computer Channel. Now, another limiting factor of the old netbook is the fact that it's capped out at 2 gigabytes of memory. So we may end up in a situation again where it freaking bogs down to, well, to the point where it nearly freezes up. Let's say, for example, if I scale YouTube to 80%, it definitely helps. So if you're browsing the web on one of these netbooks, perhaps it would not hurt to scale down the size of web pages to 80%. You scale the size of the page down to 80%, that does make things a lot easier to deal with. Let's try one more thing. This keyboard is just, the M key sometimes does not respond. So let's say if you want to do some shopping. Let's say you want to do some shopping for Valentine's Day. Could you do it on a netbook? Yeah. Well, let's say if I want to look up computer parts. Let's see. And of course, solid state drives are getting much cheaper these days. So it's a no-brainer to go with the SSD. Unless you're really needing a lot of storage space. But even then, I would still recommend going with a solid state drive for your primary boot drive. And using a hard disk for your data storage. So we'll scale this down to 80% size as well. So yeah, if you scale the web page down to 8%, that makes it a lot easier to browse in I must say, guys, Chrome on Lubuntu on this netbook is actually usable. It's actually very responsive. Like, for example, of course, it's not going to be blazingly fast, but yeah, let's look at a expensive Samsung SSD. I used to buy Samsung SSDs, but I've kind of sort of started to switch over to other brands like Silicon Power. Like, for example, we'll just look up their brand on here. You can see, yeah, it's actually, yeah, look at that. For I think the Samsung 1TB SSD was $79, whereas a 2TB SATA 3 2.5-inch SSD from Silicon Power is $88. That's actually pretty incredible. Anyways, I don't want to waste your time with this. Let's just, yeah, I think we've proven our point that web browsing on this is actually usable. And I've actually still got 2 other tabs open. Now, of course, browsing YouTube will definitely take some time. So, but, I mean, still, this is not bad. So that being said, we're going to close out of this. It does seem like Lubuntu is really a go-to OS for an old netbook like this. It actually turns a netbook back into a usable system, despite its super weak processor and graphics and low memory. I'd say this is very useful. So if you're wanting just a basic machine to take around on the go to do web browsing and things like that, well, it looks like we now have an operating system that will make the netbook usable again. So we'll go ahead and do a restart and time this thing starting up. Now, the only thing about netbooks is they don't seem to really make good use of a solid-state drive. I mean, the Atom CPU is still pretty weak. And a lot of times the solid-state drive is not really being accessed a whole lot. So I think for something like this, if you got a laptop hard drive kicking around, you could throw it in one of these and use it for that. But what we'll do is put our stopwatch here, and we will do a startup test. So we'll go ahead and restart this. Okay. And I'll stop the clock once we get to a fully loaded desktop, including the background. Wait for the taskbar to load. Alright. That was what, 55 seconds? So less than a minute from bootloader to desktop. It's not too bad, in my opinion. So yeah, we can effectively make a netbook useful again with Lubuntu. So anyways, I'm going to shut this down. So that is installing and testing out Lubuntu on a netbook. And again, it seems like Lubuntu is a good option for this. You can actually turn a netbook back into something useful. So anyways, it's already shut down. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Well, everybody, that wraps it up for this video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to Cube Computer channel, and be sure to tick the bell, that way you get notified of new video posts. Also, I recommend following Cube Computer Company on Facebook. A link is in the video description. In addition to computer tech videos, I have a second channel, CubeComp MTDX. Links are available at the end of this video. Again, I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching and your support.